Hello and welcome to Alabama Film Community TV, and it is episode 6. And I have with me a very special guest tonight, Bob Waltrip from Birmingham with the Crosswinds Foundation and a maker of documentaries and other film, and we'll get more into that here in just a minute, Bob. But I have a little bit of work I need to do to get everybody up to speed on some of the things that are happening this week.
Go ahead and take care of it.
All right, so remember now, Thursday night of this week, we have the Southern Circuit Film series again, and this week is the movie Swim Team, and that is a wonderful movie about a group of autistic kids who came together and formed a swim team, and all the things that go on with autism and relating to other people. We'll also be honoring Jim Patterson, who his wife Susan Patterson will be here. I don't know if you know it, but Jim passed away back in the fall. He was the state legislator from District 21, also the sponsor of House Bill 284, which was the autism bill that came out last May. So Susan's going to be here, and we've got a plaque for her, and we're going to make a presentation, and the film will be in honor, of Jim and the work that he's done. So
Fantastic.
that's coming up this Thursday night, March the 15th. You can come in at 6 o'clock. Please go online to longleafstudios.com and look for Swim Team. You'll be able to go and register there. We do need people to register. One of the reasons that they're registering is we have to have a head count, and so we can have the pizza and all the other things that are coming in for that. We just need a head count. So if you would, please register, and we'd love to see you here. Also, don't forget that we have field trips. We're about that time of the year where the schools and all are going to field trips. And don't forget Longleaf Studios. It's $15 a person. You get a full day or a half day from 8 o'clock till noon. We're going to make a video while you're here, talk about the film industry, go through all the quality stuff. You'll have a chance to even do a little bit of editing, and there is a lunch. So if you're looking for a field trip for your students here in Northeast Alabama, don't forget to go to longleafstudios.com and look up field trips. The other thing I need to talk about is the acting and film camp. We're now in our 6th season of film camp. And so what we are proposing again this year is that on June the 25th through the 29th will be the actual film camp. The acting camp will be a week before that, and it's a day camp. So if you come to the day camp and then go to the actual film camp the next week, there's a discount in the price. You can go to longleafstudios.com again, look up film and acting camp, and find all the information there about how to register. So my very special guest with us tonight is Bob Waltrip, and Bob is from Birmingham, Alabama. I've known you since, the late 70s when I started school at Jacksonville State, and you were one of the guys in radio. What year did you actually graduate?
I actually graduated in '76.
Okay, so you were actually gone before I started.
Well, yeah, I was there, but you were one of those guys that kind of hung out.
Yeah, I did.
That we knew that were out there, the next generation coming up.
Right. We had a lot of fun. Bob was the original group that started WLJS Radio here at Jacksonville State University, and you did a radio show and all that while you're here?
Well, actually, I was the first program director.
Okay.
And the amazing thing was we'd never had a radio station, but we had so many people that wanted to have a show that I just decided I would be a fill-in guy. So I knew I was never going in radio, so I gave the shows to these other guys, and I would be the guy. You were the station manager. You know how it is when somebody doesn't show up for the first 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes of the show. I was the fill-in guy.
It's our job to fill in and make sure the station stays.
The station keeps running.
Yeah. In that day, we had to even go and get a third-class license and a lot of things before you could go on the air. So
Absolutely.
It wasn't just,
That's right.
hey, I want to be on the air and you go to a class. We had
to go over to Atlanta and take a test.
That's right. And get that little certificate, and then you got a chance to go on the air. So to have that many students that you could only fill in, that's pretty good response from the student population.
Yeah, it is a tremendous response, and everybody wanted to be on the radio, I guess. Mm-hmm. But also, we were very limited in what we could do. We only had one studio in those days, so any production work had to be done when you were off air. So we had to shut down at some point so we could do production. So you had folks up there from when we shut down at 1 in the morning until we came back on at 6 in the morning doing production, and it was pretty wild.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Well, this is Alabama Film Community TV. I want to do a shout out right now to David Finlayson, who is still in the Birmingham Hospital. He's had bypass surgery, one of our class members, script writer, just a really, really good guy. But he started the Alabama Film Community Facebook page.
Okay.
And this last December, when we got the equipment to do multi-camera live streaming, we started the YouTube page. So I want to make sure David is, we give him a shout out. He's doing well. I talked to him today. The meds were really kicking in when I talked, and he was having a wonderful time at that point in the hospital.
Well, we wish the best for David.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
So David, get well. We can't wait to see you when you come back, and looking forward to you helping us redesign the set.
Yeah.
That was one of the things he was talking to me about, what he would do with the set, and I'd love to see him come back and help us out with that.
Well, it's a great facility here, and I know you're proud of what's happened. I first toured your studios a couple of years ago. You gave me a little private tour. I only had to pay $5, I think, to see it.
That was a cheap one because the rest of them been much higher.
But it's really impressive to see what we have here at Jacksonville in this area, and that the university has access, so many students. So I commend you and what you're doing and your team here. It's just fantastic, really a terrific job. So.
Well, Bob, you've been in the business of documentaries and film now for quite a while. Give me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, and actually it's kind of like when I got into radio, all I knew about the radio was I liked to listen to it, and
Really good at playing it.
Yeah, and I had a friend who drug me into this whole idea of starting a campus radio station, and what I knew about movies is I really like to go to movies, but I had an organization that really dealt with what different religious groups believe and trying to put that in the context of our culture and comparative religions. And in doing that, I started thinking, what we really need to do is start developing films about this, because I'm just sold on the fact that if you want to communicate, the best way to communicate is through film. Mm-hmm. Now, I love books, but film, really, the visual aspect of film is what really communicates and tells those stories. So as part of that, I decided, if we want to communicate, let's do it with film.
Right.
So as with radio, I knew nothing about it, so I had to start learning about things. And I had a friend, Rick Sutton, which some of you may know or run across. Rick's been involved in film in Alabama for a long time. He's an old guy. He's really my age. But Rick, he started out at EWTN as a producer and running cameras. And Rick came on board with me, and we developed some short stuff, and then did a documentary back in 2006. And that's really how I got involved. It's like so much of life, it's not what you plan to do, but it's just what happened, where you were at a certain time. And I was just at that point that, I was in a position that I saw a need for film, and Rick was there as a friend, and it was a great relationship. And I'll give him a plug. He owns Sutton Place Studios today. If you ever need any film work, he's a guy that
All right.
can
In
certainly
Birmingham.
help you out. He's moved up to North Alabama, but
Has he?
just do Sutton Place Productions, and you'll find him. And
Is it in the Huntsville area? Where?
yeah, he's in a little small town up toward there.
Okay.
So
Awesome. I need to look him up when
look
I'm
him
up that
up.
way.
Yep, good guy.
We've got a lot of-
So we did that first film, and that's really started this adventure that I got on.
What was the first one?
First film was a film called The Da Vinci Code Revealed.
Okay.
And we just took some of the claims that were made in the Da Vinci Code, which the author was claiming were true, and we just said, hey, here they are. And we went and talked to folks about, here's what the Da Vinci Code says. What do you think? You're an expert in this field. Art experts, book experts, historians, theologians, and interviewed them and put all the information out, and then summed it up and said, hey, we're not here to tell you what to believe, but consider the facts and make a decision for yourself. So that's how we started out.
So what
By the way, that film's online if you want to Google it.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
You Google it, and you can watch it free on Vimeo.
it's on Vimeo. You don't have any other, that's where it's at.
Yeah,
Can you buy it
just
anywhere?
do Da Vinci Code Revealed, and
Okay.
well, you can buy it.
I mean,
There's no need to buy it. Go watch it for
I
free.
get that,
you know?
but sometimes we want to make sure that if it's for sale,
All
I
right.
can go get that.
Yeah.
But-
If you go on that link, you'll find out how to buy it if you want a copy.
Well, that brings up the question about distribution. How do you do distribution of the documentaries? Mostly by word of mouth, or do you have a company that does that?
We do that on our own,
Okay.
but we're a little bit different kind of animal because we actually give our DVDs away.
Right.
And so it's hard to find a distributor and say, hey, would you like to give these away to people who want them?
Right, right.
You know, so we had to figure out how to do that on our own. And along the way, what I've learned is it's actually easier to sell something than it is to give it away because
Right.
you do have to become your own distribution channel.
Right.
And you got to find
And
those
storage.
and storage, and you got to find those unique individuals and companies who will actually distribute something for free because they believe in the mission of helping people with that film.
I know I saw a video of you at one time handing out videos of the invisible scars at a parade.
Right.
And so you had your boxes of them, you handing them out to
You
soldiers.
probably had boxes under one arm.
You did.
Yes,
so-
that's right. Down in the streets of Birmingham for
Right. Veterans Day parade.
Veterans
I think
Day
it was, right.
parade. Birmingham has the largest Veterans Day parade in the nation. And the original, the first.
Well, I just mentioned one of the videos. It really, touched my heart.
Right.
Having worked in Huntsville in the Army and seeing the soldiers go and come back and knowing a lot of them from up there. When Invisible Scars came out, we aired it on WMJN and TV 29 for a good solid month, and got a lot of response back from soldiers saying, "I'd like to see it again." And we kind of just ran it almost continuously
Yeah.
for a while. But tell me a little bit about Invisible Scars. That was your second documentary?
That was the first. Well, that was the first documentary I did as Crosswinds Foundation. I was with another organization before, so I was actually doing film for someone else at the time. We started a production company called EZ33 Productions, and we produced that Da Vinci Code Revealed. Shot a second video or documentary, which never was released. We never got through the editing process because I left the organization to start Crosswinds at the time. But and I also produced a couple of training videos, and my purpose had always been to produce these videos, and like I'm sure your folks want to do, you want to make money off of it.
Right,
You want to, because that's how you make more.
Right.
So I'd always been the habit of you can sell a DVD for $19.95. That's what it used to go for.
Right.
Back in 2006 and before. And so we would produce these and sell them for $20 basically, and make enough funds, or hopefully make enough to do more. So when I started Crosswinds Foundation, I knew that I wanted to have another production company, so I started Front Porch Media as a division of Crosswinds.
I saw that.
And so we set out to make our first film. And I knew that there was a topic, post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder, that really hadn't been addressed in film at that time. So this was back in 2011. So I said, this will be our first production. We'll do this. And of course, I'm thinking 1995.
Right.
And we'll take the 1995, however many we sell, and we'll make the next film off of the proceeds from that. But an interesting thing happened along the way. My director, and the director for our films, is a great friend of mine. His name is Eugene Cuevas, does a terrific job. And Eugene had gone out and filmed a few of our veterans telling their story. And what we really want to do is just educate people about it, because so few people at that time really understood what PTS was. And so Eugene brought back some of the early rushes of the interviews he had done just for me to watch. And I started watching these interviews, and I'll tell you, I'll have to be honest, I just began to weep as I listened to these men tell their stories. And to see the pain that they were in, and that they were not getting the help that they needed. And so I started thinking, how in the world can I sell this film when it can obviously do so much good for these people who are in need?
Right.
So I turned to my director and I said, we can't sell this. We're going to have to give it away for free. And I like to tell people, once he got his jaw up off the floor, I said, so we're going to have to not only raise the money to make the film, we're going to have to raise money to buy the DVDs and to ship the DVDs and to market the DVDs and to find distribution channels for the DVD.
Right.
And so we set out on this journey, Alan, to not only make a film, but make a film that would have an impact in people's lives. And I'm proud to say that we hear weekly from veterans and their families who have looked at that film and just so ecstatic that they found something that could help them. One of my favorites stands out as a guy sent me an email. It was a 2-sentence email, and it simply said this: "Last night, my wife and I watched your film. When it was over, she turned to me and said, 'Now I get it.'"
Wow.
You know, that's the great thing that we find out. Families don't understand what their spouses who have been to war are going through.
Right.
And they can't relate to it. And the spouse who went to combat doesn't know how to explain it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we've tried to do with our film, is help a family member or a friend watch the film and say, "Now I get it."
Right.
But the next problem you deal with PTS is that the men and women who have it tend not to get treated for it. What you find is, interestingly, in the military, a soldier's trained, when you're in combat, if you sprain your ankle, you don't have time to say, "Uh-oh, sprained my ankle, I'll have to sit this one out." The enemy's not going to quit firing. You've got to continue to engage no matter what your injury is if you can move. So they're taught to be tough and to keep moving and stay in the battle, and that you can fight your way, work your way through this. Well, they come home and they think of that with their mental trauma.
Right.
They think, well, I need to take care of this myself. I can handle this. And so they don't get the treatment that they need. Another thing is there's a stigma attached to PTS that a lot of these folks carry. They think I'm a failure or something's wrong with me, I'm flawed. So they don't want to acknowledge it. So we made the film for the purpose of helping a veteran or his family understand what PTS is, to self-diagnose, and then to hear other veterans say it's okay to get help.
Right.
You know, go get help. And of course you've seen the film, and you know that's what we're really trying to do.
Let's take a look at the trailer. We have
Perfect.
that, and I'm going to let Brandon bring that up. So right now, this is the original trailer to Invisible Scars.
Can't see the things that these young men and women have seen without being changed by it.
Understand something, anyone who go to war never come back the same. To go out and deliberately take someone's life is a life-changing experience. And you have to learn to cope with that.
If I could pay someone to make me forget it all, to brainwash me and forget it all, then I would.
The real hallmark of post-traumatic stress is that whatever the horrible event was, it keeps coming back to the person and they keep reliving it over and over again.
In my eyes as a Marine, it was weakness.
They're still fighting the war back there, even though they're living in America. They're living in the present.
We should also be on the cutting edge of what heals our people.
What's really important is that people know that the earlier you get treatment, the better, and that treatment works.
Hope is now available. Healing is available.
It's the biggest hurdle you'll ever have to take a step over in your life.
And the emotional scars are something that we have to learn to deal with, and we can with the help of the people around us.
Wow, 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 what a compelling trailer that was,
Yeah.
and thank you for doing that.
The real heroes are the men and women you saw in that trailer that have served us so faithfully in their military service.
You had a chance to speak to the class a little earlier. One of the questions that they asked you had to do with the research that goes into before you start doing a documentary, and then finding the one kind of hero inside of that. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, you know what you want to go into a documentary with some anticipation of what you're going to be told. You're going to hear a lot of things you didn't know, but you want to at least have some idea. So you want to go in there and research it. You want to of course, that's so easy today with the internet, but you want to find experts, recognized experts in the field, you need to read their writings. A lot of times you'll find that they've done interviews that you can actually watch, so you get an idea of what they're going to say when you interview them, but also what kind of questions you need to ask, not just them, but ask other people as well. So you want to get that research done to formulate, exactly what you're looking for, some anticipation of what you're going to find as you put it together. And then go out there and one of the hardest things we found for this first film was getting people who would be interviewed. This is a very private, personal thing for these men and women.
Right.
And to go on camera and share their story and realize that, hundreds of thousands of people are going to see that and hear their story, that's kind of a tough thing to do. So it was very difficult to find those men and women that would actually agree to do it. The experts are easy to get, but the people who were telling their own personal story, those are the ones that I really commend. It takes a lot of guts for them to do it.
Now, you had people in there that were all the way back from Vietnam to Desert Storm to current.
Right, correct.
So your research went back a little bit,
right.
Documenting PTS has been around a while.
Oh, it goes back as far as the Civil War. They had, they call it certain things like soldier's heart, battle fatigue. Every war's had it. It just wasn't called PTS. Really after the Vietnam War, they started going back and saying something's happening here. There's something that needs to be dealt with. And unfortunately, that wasn't for a decade or so after these men and women were returning before they did it. But it's always been a part of battle. What I tell people, you can go back and read in the Old Testament of the Bible, and you can find warriors there who are suffering. In the stories they tell, you can identify it and say that's PTSD that they're dealing with.
Right.
My dad was a World War II veteran, and I can remember as a young kid passing his bedroom when he was asleep sometimes and just hear moaning and crying out in there. I had no idea what it was, but after doing this film, I can look back on that and say, it would have been great if after he came home they knew about this, because some of the horrors of war that those men saw in World War II, the atrocities were just as great as any other war that we've had our men and women go through. So it's important that we help these men and women be able to recognize that and know it's nothing new. It's always been a part of war.
I did another one after this, Invisible Scars, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and that's kind of interesting. Our plan was that let's just do a whole bunch of military films. But when we were doing the film on PTSD, during our research, we kept coming across this other moral or mental trauma that they really didn't have a name for. You had a small subset of clinicians who, in their research, they recognized there was something that was happening that was a mental or emotional trauma, but it wasn't PTS. It didn't fit the diagnostic manual's guidelines for that. And so they just began to call it moral injury. And again, it was you don't hear it commonly spoken of today. But we kind of took that away and said, that'll be interesting to learn a little bit more about.
Right.
So after we finished this film and toured with it and got it on its feet and was getting it out to folks, we came back and revisited moral injury. We began to research that and look into it. And Alan, one of the things you'll often hear is that statistically 22 veterans a day commit suicide. That is a staggering number when you think about it.
That's right.
So as we began to research this, I'm convinced that those suicides are primarily due to moral injury, not PTS. And what the researchers have come up with is that moral injury is caused when somebody goes into combat and their military or their what's called warrior code is in conflict with their personal code.
I got it.
For example, you'll hear a soldier say, all my life I was taught thou shalt not kill.
Right.
And then I get into a combat situation and I'm told kill that guy. All right. So he has a moral dilemma at that point. Do I remain true to my personal value that I got from home, family, church, school, wherever, that says thou shalt not kill, or do I follow my military code which says to kill that person?
Right.
And of course they follow their military code, and now they come back with this conflict, this internal conflict. It was interesting. Every combat soldier that we interviewed vividly remembered their first kill.
Wow.
You would hear stories of looking down the scope and seeing the face of the person that they were about to shoot. One veteran in the film, a story that stands out to me is he was a Vietnam vet. And by the way, in this second film, Honoring the Code that we're talking about, we actually interviewed World War II vet all the way through the current war. So we've seen the whole spectrum. But this one Vietnam veteran that we interviewed was a sniper. And he told this story about how he was engaged in a battle, a skirmish, and he shot a Viet Cong officer. And he said, I remembered where he fell, because when the battle was over, I was going to go back and search his body for souvenirs that I could take home. Isn't that something? You believe that? You know, but that's the mentality. And so he said, so the battle ended, and I went over to the body, and I started rifling through the pockets, getting things out. He said, I reached in and I pulled out a photograph, and that photograph was of a woman and two small children.
Wow.
And he said, it suddenly hit me that here was a wife who would never see her husband again. And here were two children who would never see their dad again.
Right.
And then he paused, and tears began to run down his. Now this is a Marine sniper,
right.
Alan.
Right.
This is a man we're talking about, a man's man. And in reflection on that, he began to weep. And then his lip quivered, and he kind of gained his composure. And he said, I never searched another body again. In other words, he couldn't stand it. He couldn't take it.
Right.
After we finished that interview, he and I were standing over by the side as the crew was breaking down the lighting and cameras and stuff. And we were just standing there, and he turned to me and he said, I haven't told that story in 40 years. Can you imagine that? He's carried that weight for 40 years.
All that time, right.
All that time. Never had shared it. Yeah. And he shared it on film.
My granddad was a World War II veteran, and he was shot down over Yugoslavia. And to ask him questions was just like pulling teeth. You could not hardly get him to talk about it. But he would look at the History Channel and the bombers going over, and he'd say, 12 men died there. You know, I knew that crew. And he would weep and break down as well. And, you know, the idea of the moral code versus, you know, they're not really different, but that moral code and being at war has really got to be a pressure when you get back.
It's a tremendous conflict for these men and women. So I think this film has had a tremendous impact. And what was different because of the first film, because of the success of the first film, so many veterans had seen how we handled the stories of those veterans in the first film.
Right.
How, you know, we hadn't sensationalized them. We hadn't been opportunistic in how we did it.
Right.
That we had veterans volunteering to be in the second film.
Right.
You know, they wanted to tell their stories. And that's what we need to do. I shared with your class earlier, in film, whether it's documentaries or feature films that we're making, we're storytellers.
Right.
And we want people to tell their story in a documentary. And so you find these men and women who want to tell that story, who want to share it. And it's just compelling to hear that. It's life-changing for many of our veterans. So we made this second film, Honoring the Code, and you know what we had to do? Had to give it away free. But we knew from the front end this one would be free.
Yeah.
So again, it's a little bit different kind of animal than making a product you can sell. But I tell you what, it's so rewarding when you hear the stories that these vets
I've not
tell.
seen Honoring the Code yet.
Yeah.
So, but we do have the trailer, and so let's take a look at that right now. And Brandon, if you would, go ahead and start the trailer to Honoring the Code.
Moral injury is when you are a part of some kind of act or event that so violates your moral code that results in deep sense of shame and guilt, in questioning of oneself, one's belief systems, and what you have always known to be right and good in the world.
Get back into the environment that you were raised in. You see the people you went to church with. And you think about all those lessons, and you think about that shall not kill. That there is no footnote to it. There is no except. And you wrestle with, you know, I killed. It was wrong. It was morally wrong.
Okay, that's honoring the code. And Bob, thank you so much for letting us see that.
Absolutely. Oh, appreciate you sharing it with folks.
Now, people can still get that. You can see it online. Is that correct?
Yeah, what you can do is you can go to honoringthecode.com. That's the film site. And you can, there's a link there you can click. If you're a veteran, you can order it for free. Click that link. It'll go take you to where you fill your information out. We'll ship you one by mail. Same is true with Invisible Scars. That's invisiblescarsmovie.com. Or you can just go to invisiblescarsproject.com and get all of it at the same time.
Okay.
But all of those websites have links that you can go to and order the film. Veterans, it's free. If you're not a vet and you want to buy it, you can also buy it there. It'll take you to our store, and you can get it there. You can order T-shirts if you want to. We've got some Honoring the Code T-shirts that you can wear. When you buy those T-shirts or buy the films, it helps us buy more films. We put that money right back into providing films for free for veterans. There's also, in a couple of months, these will be available for free streaming to vets online or free download
And
online.
they'll be through VMO or?
Yeah, it's going to be through that. And, you know, we'll have a new website we're currently building right now called warriorsonmission.com.
Okay.
And we're going to move everything to that, so you'll find it in one place. You can go there and check for the streaming, or you can still order the DVD. If you're not a vet, again, we're going to ask you to buy it as opposed to getting it free, but it'll, you know, will be $1.99 to download it or watch it for free. And again, it just helps us put the money right back into buying it. You know, this is a continuous process of having to raise funds to continue to buy DVDs.
So if anybody just wanted to contribute a little money, they could go to the site and
absolutely,
just say,
absolutely.
I'd like to buy 100 for you to give away. Or,
Absolutely. You can go on site and click to make a donation. It'll take you to a secure giving page.
Right.
And whatever you'd like to give, every $25 you give helps us to put 5 DVDs out. I'm sorry, put 10 DVDs into the hands of veterans.
so
that
every
takes care of
$25 is 10.
Every $25 will take care of 10. You know, we're keeping the cost down, and that's to help pay for the postage that we send out as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we'd love for you to help in this project. I guarantee you, veterans would appreciate you helping as well.
Well, Bob, you've done these 2 documentaries, and pretty much you're a Birmingham guy here in Alabama. The Alabama Film Commission has incentives. Have you been able to take part of the incentives, or how does that work?
We have not taken part of the incentives on our documentaries, and but we've got a film we're working on. All right, kind of a let the cat out of the bag with you. You're the first one here. All right, this is a scoop you're getting out of me. Drug it out. But we've just Eugene Cuevas and I have just scripted a feature film called Outside the Wire. And we're taking everything that we've learned about these veteran issues of PTS and moral injury, and we've put them in the life of the character who's returning from the war in Afghanistan. And we're going to tell his story and his family's story and his buddy's story.
Wow.
And really put this out there and try to, you know, the great thing about feature film that's better than documentary is it'll reach a broader audience.
Right.
And our goal is the same as with our documentaries. We want to educate people, but we just want to do it in such a way they don't know they're being educated. They'll think they're being entertained.
Right.
So, but that's outside the wire. Maybe sometime I can come back and we can tell you more about that.
We'd love to have you back to do that.
But we're going to be
Absolutely.
doing that. We're going after those incentives through the Film Commission.
Okay.
And so hopefully that'll be a good experience for us and one that actually gives some return.
Well, in case anybody doesn't know, the Alabama Film Incentives, they put aside $20 million.
Right.
And out of that, 35% in-state spend on labor and 25% on the other items like hotel, motel, and all that. The big trick is keeping up with the accounting.
That's right.
Of that.
Yeah.
And but it is a really good incentive to do your film right here in Alabama.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can, you know, if you had $1 million, $2 million, $5 million project, that's a pretty significant amount that's going to come back.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot with that much money as well. You know, and the accounting part is something you got to watch out for, but they got these folks today called accountants. I don't know if you're familiar
Well,
with them
we had
or not.
one in here tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, they take care of stuff like that for you.
Right.
So us folks that don't do good math don't have to worry about
But
it.
it is kind of a specialized field of doing film accounting, and
Yeah.
so you want to make sure you got that.
Absolutely,
that done
that's a
correctly.
great point. You can't just go to any accountant because a lot of them wouldn't even know this money's available. You'd have to educate them in order to do the accounting part.
Right.
So you want to, and fortunately in Alabama, we've got a couple of firms that do a great job with that, and they've got experience doing it. You know, there's a lot of film work being done in Alabama.
There is a lot more than you realize.
That's
and,
right.
You know, most people don't realize that Longleaf Studios is here. In fact, you said you took a tour a couple of years ago, but Longleaf Studios has the second largest green screen in Alabama. We've got over 10,000 square feet of studio space that people can rent. And we're developing a crew, which is what is producing the show, you know, here tonight. And I guess we had probably 15 or 16 that are here that are regular people that show up, and you know, we're here to help you, you know, produce that film. But if you were an Atlanta new producer director, I think right here would be a great place to bring it. You know, with your low budget film, come here, and Longleaf is ready to help with that kind of thing too.
Oh, look, I'm sold on it. Like I said, I took a tour, and while I was here, I took a picture of that green screen, and I texted it to my director. And he immediately said, "Where are you? I'm jealous." So it is. There's a hidden jewel here. If you're making film and you're watching this, you don't know about Longleaf, I'm telling you, you got to get here. You got to see the facilities. And again, the job you're doing in helping train folks is just going to be another asset that we're going to have here in the state to continue to do even more film work here. So I really appreciate what you're doing and your folks here who are running this. And there's a huge crew of folks behind the scene right now, making sure that this operation goes off. And I shared with them, you got more folks doing this than we had making a documentary. So they're getting some good training up here. So this is a great asset, and folks ought to take advantage of it.
Now they're volunteering their time, and we're volunteering our space to teach that. And it's free every Tuesday night. So if you are wanting to be in film, don't be sure to come down here on Tuesday night and help us out. And we're going to grow this even more. We hope to have 50 to 150 people that we can reach out to on our list and run multiple crews if we need to. So, the big issue is all the SAG stuff and all the union stuff, and we're not that, but we are teaching people how to get into the film industry and be that film crew.
And that's important. Well, we're raising the funds now for our new film, and as we go through that process, we want to certainly come up here and talk to you more about how we might use some of your facilities. And again, I'd love to come back at a later date and talk to you more about that film. But I appreciate so much you sharing with your audience about invisible scars and honoring the code. And
well, Bob, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Appreciate it.
What I'm going to do is we're going to thank you again.
All right.
Hey, we're going to let Lisa come in, Lisa Lace, and talk a little bit about the film tomorrow night. So, Bob, if you'll exit,
I'm leaving.
stage left.
All right.
Then I'll let Lisa come in. Just Lisa, put your mic on, and we'll talk about some of the camp stuff and also the movie coming up tomorrow or Thursday night here at Longleaf Studios called Swim Team. Lisa will be hosting again the desk here for the live stream that will be going on Thursday night. We'll start it at 6 o'clock like we did last time, and the producer, director, whoever's here will be interviewed by Lisa. We'll have a red carpet set up, so all the people coming in will have a chance to get your picture taken, eat some pizza, have a few drinks, and sit down and watch a wonderful movie. But this is Lisa Lace.
Hello.
Also on WLJS, the campus radio station. You come to us from there. And a military person. What did you think about that with Bob?
I was so interested just now. I'm interested first in seeing these movies, but it was very interesting when he talked about the moral injury.
Right.
I think that is something that we kind of miss. Like we don't think about that, and it really made me think about basic training. And there was a guy from Alabama. There's about 5 of us in there from Alabama. We were at Fort Leonard Wood. And I just remember him crying because he said he didn't want to shoot his gun. And the drill sergeant was like, well, what do you think you signed up for?
Right.
And it just broke my heart that, I see this young man who was very gung-ho in the beginning about being there, but as soon as we got those rifles, he was like, I think I made the wrong decision. But he ended up finishing basic training. He didn't go to combat. I also didn't go to combat, but it made me think about that. Like I wonder where he would be mentally if he had to go to combat and actually had to shoot someone. Right. And I remember our drill sergeants telling us about their first kills, and one of my drill sergeants' first kill was a 9-year-old kid. So I related to that a lot, indirectly and somewhat directly, because I don't think a lot of people understand that moral injury can also come from non-combat situations, because you are put in a position where you have to put that code before everything. The warrior ethos, they come first. They come before your family, your spouse, and I guess that's why a lot of marriages don't really work out in the military, because that becomes your spouse, that becomes your everything. So I'm very interested in seeing that, and also interested in telling my veteran friends about it so that they can get copies, and maybe it can help some of them.
Right. Because
I do have friends who are combat vets, and it's heartbreaking sometimes because you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, and I think that having a documentary where other veterans are openly speaking about this, it can be a healing process for a lot of veterans out there. Just another way to give back to those who gave the ultimate, one of the ultimate sacrifices. You think that death is the ultimate sacrifice, but you don't really think about someone having to cause death to someone. So it's a very interesting, and live the rest of your life with those decisions. Right. One kill I couldn't imagine, but imagine having to kill multiple people while you're in war. Some of our soldiers are over there for years at a time. So I think it's something that I'm interested in, and it's something that I'm interested in getting out to my friends. So I really appreciate that segment.
Well, you got to do the interviews of the First Lady of the Revolution.
I did.
And did you not go and interview her again? Tell us about that.
And I wish I would have been able to bring, I don't know what's going on with my memory card, but I went to load the pictures and video, and the memory card is locked. So I got to figure out how to unlock it. But when I tell you, this lady is one of the most phenomenal people I've ever met in my life. And I was honored to be able to go to DC and sit with her and actually talk to her face to face and, help her around the building, which she didn't need much help. At 99, she was going up and down the steps like it was nothing. But her story was very interesting, being from Alabama, in a time where we probably wouldn't have been able to speak. And to just know that, I remember her saying when she first started to rebel against the thought that we weren't all equal and, you know, they had to be separated.
Right.
She said the first thing I did was looked around and see if anybody else thought like I did. Like, you know, how are we okay with this?
Right.
She was very sweet. There were a couple of questions she didn't want to answer, but, and she's very blunt. She's very sweet, but very blunt. If she doesn't want to do something, it's no, I'm not going to explain it. Yes, I'm not going to explain it. Right. It's just no. But I had a wonderful time. The director, Andrea Kalin, she hosted a party, after party at her house, and we got to do more talking. I got to learn more about the process and the 10-year process that it took to make that film.
Wow.
And the friendship that they built over that time. It's amazing. It's amazing. And her family and just all the people that it was a packed house. When I tell you, it was packed. End of the movie, standing ovation. Everyone loved the movie, and it was themed, so people were there in 40s attire. Right. So it was like a step back into the past, and I had a very good time. I had a very good time.
So Thursday night we have swim team.
Yes.
And that's a, Brenda, do we have that on there that we could show the trailer? Okay, we don't have it tonight.
From another episode, Kyle?
I think we're okay. You can go online to Longleaf Studios, look that up. The trailer is there. Also register to come, but it's a fabulous movie. There is a little bit of language in it. One of the young men had Tourette's, so you can imagine he speaks bluntly, and none of that's edited. But this is about, and oh, by the way, the swim coach, I believe, was from Ohatchee.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot here. It's been shown a year ago down in Oxford, but we'd love to have you come in because we're going to have a great night, a lot of people coming in. Like I said, Susan Patterson, the wife of Jim Patterson, her husband died last fall, who was the representative from District 21 in Alabama, the sponsor of House Bill 284, which is the bill that has given the autistic kids the right to have insurance and all the things that went on with that. So we're going to have an award with her, and you may get a chance to interview her.
So you're saying that bill gave them the right to have insurance. So
yeah, there's like 4 or 5.
They weren't able.
That's right. So the insurance companies were dropping them, and so Jim took up the mantle, and they wrote the bill that got that through. I'll give you a copy of it.
I can imagine that. Yeah. Like not being able to take care of my child.
I know it.
Because insurance doesn't cover something like that. It sounds like a very interesting movie. I do have a very good friend whose child is autistic, and he's one of the sweetest kids I know. But it is, you know, a trying time for her at times to have a child that is autistic. So to know that they can even participate in something like this and be productive is I think it's a turnaround.
Yeah.
Obviously, because at one point they didn't even want to take care of these type of children. And now to see that these kids are just as smart as everyone else, there's nothing really wrong with them. And I always tell her, like, you know, it's nothing wrong with him. Right. It's something right with him. So just wait till he gets there. He's going to amaze you at some point. And I don't think I've ever met an autistic child yet that didn't surprise me, didn't give me something to admire.
Thursday night at 6 o'clock, we open the doors, and we'll go live on this set. And do the red carpet thing like we did last time. And then after the movie, we'll have a chance to also interview the director, producers, and everybody will be able to ask questions in there about how they made the film and all the different things that go on with that. So it's going to be a great night on Thursday night. And
I look forward to it.
Yeah, so if you would, go register for me, get the numbers up out there so that we know exactly how much pizza and stuff to buy. And we'll have a great time on Thursday night at 6 o'clock here. Students at JSU, come on out. I know Dr. Jeffrey's class, you've got to make one of these 3 films, and so we need some of you guys to come on out this week. And the April 5th is Bending the Arc. That's another Southern Circuit film that'll be coming up as well. We'll talk more about that in a later broadcast here. Well, that's going to wrap it up for tonight.
All right.
Lisa, thank you for being here. And
thank you.
Bob, I don't know where you're at, but thank you. And to the crew that put everything together tonight, we really, really thank you guys for coming out and working on this. And if you'd like to be a part of our crew and to learn about it, you're a student, local in the area, be sure to come here on Tuesday nights at 5 o'clock, and you too can be a part of that. And I'm getting
part of this greatness.
Yeah, I'm getting the direction. I'm on that camera over there.
Oh,
so
sorry.
So anyway, that'll do it. We'll wrap it up, but thank you for watching our program tonight, Alabama Film Community Live.
Good night.